Introducing Coin Op, the retro video game Ableton Live template, featuring everything you need to make authentic 8-bit chiptune music. Start creating the music of your favorite video game consoles today with Coin Op.
What's up, everybody? This is Brian Funk, aka AfroDJMac. Thank you for checking out Coin Op, the retro video game Ableton Live template. This is a template for making authentic video game music from like the old consoles like Nintendo, Genesis, Gameboy. And I used this template myself when I was performing at the Long Island Retro Video Game Expo. So it is tried and tested, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. So let me show you what's going on here. You've got basically everything you would get on like a console video game. You've got your drum tracks. So I've got the drum track loaded with 64 samples. And you can hear some of these samples here. This is really nice, like if you're using a push, to have your 64 pad layout. Lots of really cool sounds in there. We've also got some effects for the drums. You can customize each individual drum sound. So if I got this kick drum here, I could transpose it into something totally new. I can do some filtering and some other stuff with that, which is really handy, panning as well. We've also got the effects here. So this is some drum fills effects. So what I would do is I would make myself a quick beat. So I'll just do that right now. Something simple and fast. There's some hi-hats randomly in there. So I got my little drum pattern going here. And what you can do is map these controls to a button. I'm going to use my keyboard here. And I'm just going to map some of these keys. So we'll do 1, 2, and 3. So that when I come out of here, I can very easily just hit. Oops, let's make sure we turn off our MIDI keyboard here. And just by hitting my button, I get little drum fills. It's a very cool way to get your drum sounds going. Have a lot of fun. We got this repeat drop effect, which is pretty cool. Again, map that to a control on your MIDI controller. You've also got a nice high pass filter here and a low pass filter as well. So let's take a look at the next thing we got here. I'm going to stop this clip. We've got 64 pads of percussion sounds. And again, perfect for your 64 pad controllers such as push or launch pad. And these are kind of broken up in different sections. We got some video game samples that you may recognize. Then we've got some glitch sounds in the next quadrant. Some more different types of glitch sounds. And these are just nice for, again, percussion stuff. Some zips and zaps from different video games. And then some kind of like nice little transitional noises you can use. So again, I like to just use these for percussive stuff. So as I may have my beat going here, I might turn on, I'm going to use my note repeat on the push. And I'm just kind of banging out some different little sounds just by playing around with the percussion. Record this real quick. Nothing too planned here, just kind of banging out some notes. And now we've got a cool little percussive track. And again, just as with the drum sounds, you've got some effects you can play around with, some filtering. Well, get rid of those lows. Also got a sidechain pump. So this is set up basically compressor listening to the drum track for the low end. So as soon as I hit my drum track, I'm going to get some sidechain compression going on my percussion track, which is really handy. Kind of helps things fit in the mix. If I turn that off, you can really hear the difference in our sound here where the percussion is laying on top, but now it sort of blends a little more as I add some sidechaining in. Also, we've got an arpeggiator here. So you can just kind of hold down a few notes and get an interesting percussive line. Just holding down some notes and playing around with the arpeggio rate here. Okay, what else we got? We've got a triangle wave. So this is a pretty standard sound you'll hear in video game consoles. This is sampled off of both the Nintendo and a Game Boy. And I like this one a lot for bass sounds, personally. I think it like kind of sits nice for bass. And you've got control of your attack, so you can have like a little fade in. And then we can also play around with the release, so we get like longer notes. This is a monophonic instrument. There are polyphonic versions of each of these instruments, but I wanted to, in this particular set at least, give you a monophonic because it's more true to the original video game. But if you prefer polyphonic, there's a whole other set with polyphonic instruments loaded into it. We've got a filter, as well as its resonance. We got a bit crusher. So it kind of gives you this kind of like Nintendo on fire sound. And there's also an arpeggiator. Which I really like for doing like bass lines. So again, I can just play my track. Just laying a bass line here. There we go, a little bass line. Now, each one of my instruments also has this coin-op effects. So I'll let you hear what this does to our bass. We get a bit crusher, and it gets pretty extreme, where you can't even tell what's going on. But you can dial it back for something a little more mild as well. There's a chorus control, and we can control different aspects of the chorus if we want it to get a little wild. We can also dial that back to something more manageable here. Turn that off for a second. And we got a delay as well, which I'll probably play with on one of the other sounds because it might fit better. But we've also got the sidechain pump, and you can hear at like extreme rates we're getting some crazy sidechaining. But as we dial it back, we get just a little bit of ducking in the bass every time the kick drum and the low end of the drum kit happens. Stop that and move us to our next instrument, which is a pulse wave instrument. Now the Nintendo will have a pulse wave in it. It's got 2 different pulse waves, and you've got 4 different lengths of the pulse wave. So let me show you just how this one works. Again, a lot like the triangle, it's monophonic, but there is a polyphonic version. You've got your attack for a little fade in. You've also got decay, sustain, and release. So you can have some longer notes. You've got a filter too, which you can play around with. There's also the pulse width control. So we got our different pulse widths all loaded into this instrument, and they're separately sampled. Now we got our second pulse width. You'll notice the sound is a little bit different than number 1. We've got number 3. And then we've got number 4, which is quite similar to number 1, but it is slightly different. And those are our different pulse wave sounds, and we've also got ourselves an arpeggiator here too. So maybe what we'll do, we'll bring this back to 1, and we'll add in something, see what we get. And I'll hit record. And there we go, just something kind of random there, but you get what you get. We've also got, you can go inside our instrument racks here. I should mention this. This goes for all of them. And you've got a couple different options for playing around. You've got this arpeggiator effect. We can change the octave. We can change the gate length of the notes. We can change the arp style. We can also give ourselves a fixed velocity. So the instrument is velocity sensitive, all of these instruments are, but you can go into this effect and just make it stay at one velocity, which sometimes gives it a little bit more of an 8-bit feel. So this is full velocity. If I turn it all the way to the left, now we're going to get the velocity sensitivity, and you're going to notice that different notes have different volumes. So I might want to even that out by doing this. We can also add a little bit of random velocity too with this control. So we're getting a random around this 65, we'll leave it at. So give or take 17 possible other velocities above or below. We also have that same coin-op effects right here. So we could add on delay, for instance. Might sound nice on the sound. A little bit. We could add some of that chorus in there. Let's just crank it. And we give our sound a little more bite with the bit crush. Just a little bit goes a long way. And we also have our sidechain pump too on this track. So you hear it moving out of the way with the low end of our drums. And moving along, we've got our next pulse wave. This is the same instrument, just set to the other pulse wave. So this is set to number 2. We'll record. Okay, cool. So we got another little part here. You're going to notice that there's a lot of volume difference. Look at my velocity here. This is a good use for our fixed velocity control. So give it something steady so the velocity is not changing the volume of the notes. It's just keeping everything outputting at, put 75. We can do a little random if we want a little more feel to it. If we go to 64, it's going to be kind of all over the place. But we dial it back to something small and we get just a little subtle velocity action. And again, we've got our effect here. I might put my sidechain pump on this one. Let's see what the chorus sounds like. I think I'd leave it off. Cool. And finally, we got one more pulse wave. So this is set to pulse wave number 3. Now, I didn't put 4 pulse waves on there because that would kind of not be as authentic as the true video game consoles. You could always add another track to this, but we're going to keep it at 3, even though the Nintendo only has 2, but I'm giving you a little bonus one here. So we can now add in like a melody with this. Maybe I'll turn up my release a little bit here so we get a longer note and just see what we get. Just get another little random melody here. Now, if you listen closely to our long sustained notes, we have control over some vibrato just by adding aftertouch to our sound. So by holding down the note and pressing a little bit, you start introducing a little bit of vibrato. You'll hear it on this long note. So the pitch is kind of shaking around a little bit. The last instrument I have here is our noise effect. So this is a sample of a couple different noise channels on some video game consoles. I'm going to stop this so you can hear it. And these are pitched out, so you can do these kind of like rising and falling noise things. You can also play around with the filter to get like kind of like a transitional sound, if you like. Just like that. You've got a filter resonance, the filter morph, so you can change it to a different type of filter for different styles of risers and fallers. And you've got also a console chooser. So right now you're just hearing the first console, and you'll notice that the low octaves sounds a lot different than as we start getting up to the higher. So let me show you the other console sound. So we'll go to console 2, and that's a different style of noise. And again, kind of fun for like transitional sounds. And there's one more console to play with. Just some fun sounds. You can use these even as like percussive elements. That's actually how they did a lot of the drums on some of the old Nintendo games and the Game Boy games. It's just the noise channel. I've put in a pitch envelope and also the decay time so you can do things like this. Suppose you want to make a fire sound, something blowing up, you can use this. It's a great effect, I think. You got like a rocket taking off or something here. A fun effect, the pitch envelope there. So that gives your noise channel a lot of mileage, and there's also a nice width control for making these kind of stand out from the noise. So maybe what I'll do, we'll craft kind of like a nice transitional sound. That's kind of fun. I'll just play it at a lower octave. And we'll use, I think this is the most appropriate one. And we'll use this as like a, you know, as a kind of like transitional sound. And we'll use the filter at the same time. So let's play our track and record something in. Here's our track so far. Pretty exciting. Hit record and a little noise going on there. And let's... There it is. We can even try one of our different consoles. Cool. So, we've also got one more thing in here, and this is our coin-op master effects. So with this we get a high pass with a delay. So I think this is like a really nice way to kind of like come out of a track, right? So I do like this. We got this crazy delay going. I can stop all my clips, move over to a different track, like say my drums, and I can start programming a beat. As, you know, as like that's kind of delaying out. It doesn't really matter what I play right now. And then I can go back to my master track and I can start bringing that out. And now my drum beat comes back in. And I use this a lot at my performance for like transitioning between songs and tracks. So now I can build a new, you know, a new sound, a new song this way. But let's go back to our other track. And I'll show you the other effects. We got the reverb low pass. So as you turn your low pass up or down, you're getting some reverb too. And I think it does a nice job in like creating a little bit of distance. You've got a compressor, so you can compress your track a bit and then make up the volume right here. This is handy to squeezing it a little, give you like a crunchiness. And we've got a bit reduction here. As we get down to like 8-bit, we start getting a slightly noisier track. I think you'll hear this a little more if I stop my track and let you just like kind of hear one sound at a time. Maybe we'll just play our drums here. And we'll... So they're much cleaner now. As we turn this down, you should be able to hear like they're kind of noisy. And we could slam our track. This is just some compression happening. And you can really hear that 8-bit effect now. If I turn this back down. Much cleaner. The slam is cool because it brings out like these like kind of funny characteristics to the 8-bit samples especially. To me now they sound kind of drummy, but as I do this I start hearing like these weird notes deep within the sound. I think it's kind of cool. Again, as I bring us down to 8-bit, we start getting some crazy stuff going on. And I'll bring in some of our other music. And we're like crushing the life out of this track right now. I'll bring the rest in. And that's with the slam, and that's also the 8-bit effect, doing a lot of work. We dial these back to something maybe a little more modest. We can do a little compression. There we go. So, something else I want to show you are all these clips on our drum track. Now, these are designed for drum fills. So, what I'm going to do is go into my key mapping, and I'm going to map a couple of these notes to letters on my keyboard. So these clips, excuse me. My snare fill. And let's see, we'll also a few of these other drums. Now these ones down here in the yellow are our like toms and random drum fills. So these are set to launch almost immediately, so I can. That's my other effect there I did before. So I'm gonna bring in my kicks, a 1 and a 3 on the kicks on this one. I think this is handy for like when you want to chill out your track a little bit, or if you just want to start something fresh off just a simple beat like this. I'll also take out our percussion. Now we got our arpeggiated bass. We can also go in here and launch the next one. You know, when I'm ready, I can of course bring in my drums, but why not give myself a little drum fill first? So I'm gonna go in here. Let me take away my sends here and let you just kind of see the whole session that I've got here. So when I hit one of my keys that I've mapped, I'm gonna start getting a drum fill. Now I can launch my clip. So these are really handy for just inserting quick drum fills. And then coming back in with my drums. So my drum fills launch almost instantly at 8th note quantization, if you'd like to know. And my regular drum clips, like normal clips, will go at the global rate, which is usually 1 bar. So again, here we are. I could also go back to my 4 to the floor stuff if I like to. This is the 4 to the floor right here. And then do a drum fill and come back in. Now these fills down here are all of my different toms. So I'm going to launch one of these and watch what happens. Whoops, wrong button again. Didn't I map these? What happened? I'll just click on it. It's randomly playing through this drum fill, and I can come right back into my beat. Hit this one. And you'll just see, you'll start getting all these random drum fills. They're different every time. Something I like to do a lot is launch one of these drum fills and go into one of my snare drum fills and come back in. But that's an easy way to add drum fills without having to program them all the time. Just bring in your drum fills and then bring back your clip. So that about does it for the Coin-Op retro video game Ableton Live template. I hope you have a lot of fun with it, as much as I do. I love this. It's so much fun. I made a lot of great music. Enjoy.